Hello and welcome to Collected Works. I'm your host, Emma Sam, and with me today, the great and wonderful Adam Latek.
I don't know about those adjectives, but I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, I didn't know what adjectives were going to come out of my mouth until I said them.
Fair enough. Well, I'm glad you didn't plan because you might have come up with something more accurate then. So I'll take it.
However you want to say. So Collected Works is where we take a look at one artist or band's complete discography to date. Because obviously They Might Be Giants still around. Oh, spoiler alert. We're talking about They Might Be Giants today.
Hey.
I don't think I've noticed.
Oh, yeah. If you got to know, it's probably not going to show up very well. We got
Nice.
a little TMDG right there.
Nice. I became a fan of They Might Be Giants as like a small child. I'm guessing you did too.
I actually was a little bit later on, in fact.
Really?
My best friend in like middle school was into CD 101. And so he was into They Might Be Giants, and he played me Istanbul and Birdhouse in Your Soul and Particle Man. And I had those on like a mix CD, and I was like, this is weird. This is fun. I really like it. And so I kind of explored them then, but I was probably 14 or 15 before I got into them, actually, which is a shame.
Okay. So I do have some years on you there,
You
but probably not in ways that are helpful. So that's like the Tiny Toons compilation, those 3 songs, isn't it?
And I will say, now that I was first aware of They Might Be Giants because of my friend Nick. I first saw Istanbul on Tiny Toons at my grandparents' house in the early to mid 90s, for sure. For sure.
My history started with a cassette that my mom had permanently borrowed from a friend of hers. I don't mean like stolen. I mean like, what we used to do with cassettes to make a second cassette.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how she had the first album, and then she had Flood and Lincoln on like official cassettes.
Okay.
And my sister and I played the crap out of those.
I wonder if they still have any audio on the tape there these days.
They do.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how. Well, actually, I think my sister, her cassette player ate like Lincoln or Flood, one of the two.
Oh, man.
But like, it got spooled back up. I think it still works.
Good. That's a loss.
There was one other thing I was gonna like mention about. Oh yeah, we also had a VHS of like a bunch of their early videos.
Oh.
So that leads to what I'll be talking about with this first album, which is that there's a misconception that I had from watching that. Like, first of all, I thought all of those, which the first 3 albums was where the videos were from, and I thought they were all the same album.
Sure.
That was false. But as I don't know.
Shall we get started? No, go right ahead. It's your show, please.
The very first album, which luckily you have been kind enough to bring in here, the self-titled album. We're gonna, by the way, totally out of order, because when I talk to Adam, I end up totally out of order.
Yes, we've been talking for several hours before we started recording,
Exactly.
And we are totally out of order.
So the first self-titled album has a lot of good tracks on it. We are going through and we're gonna select like each of our favorite tracks off of each of these albums.
Mm-hmm.
That's the plan.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So, when I watched that compilation, I always thought that the single off of this album was Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head.
Okay.
Because that seemed to me, my 8-year-old mind thought that's the single.
Sure.
Guys, I'm hearing all these songs, that's the single. There's big money in Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head. So,
I mean, it is a classic video, no doubt about it. A classic They Might Be Giants video.
When I would talk to other 8-year-olds about They Might Be Giants and wonder why they didn't know what I was talking about, I was like, yeah, you probably know Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head.
Like we all do.
They didn't know it, surprisingly enough.
Weird.
What's your thought? What's your favorite track off of?
It's hard not to go with the classic Don't Let's Start, which is just a wonderful, wonderful song. And I do have a soft spot in my heart for She's an Angel, because the first year that Nate and I did Radio Nowhere, we actually got a bunch of requests for that song, so much so that it actually made our year-end countdown.
Wow.
But I love the fact that you thought Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head was the single, because when I was thinking of my favorite track on this album, I went with Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head.
Such a good one.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for Hideaway Folk Family, and I can't wait to see like a Jordan Peele style, like, slowed down horror movie trailer featuring that song.
Oh, yes.
Like,
yes.
Just of a family being terrorized, because that's what it's about. There's like no 2 ways about it. That's what it is.
I'm sure we'll get into this a lot as we're talking about, but one thing that I really love about They Might Be Giants is that they'll have these really upbeat or bouncy or beautiful messages, and they're talking about skulls and blood and death and violence, and it's I hesitate to say funny, but it's kind of funny.
It is. I think they make an effort on a lot of the songs to do that dichotomy of the weird. I'm trying to remember all the tracks that I wanted to talk about off of this one.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm peeping.
There's some classics. This is not one that I jotted down, but I've seen them do it live a number of times, and number 3 is very fun as well. I've just got 2 songs in
Number
me,
3,
and
I do love number 3. That one actually is probably the song I think about the most. Because I don't know, I can't explain why, but it's like, oh, well, this is number 3, man.
Yeah, I get you.
And my favorite part when I was like probably 10 years old, I really loved the part where they're like, I went to the president, I asked, well, what's his name? I'm like, that's timeless. They made this song timeless. They didn't specify.
I've actually had that thought myself about that line. Yes, absolutely.
Nothing's gonna change my clothes. I had a real big soft spot for that one.
That's a wonderful
Especially
song as well.
like, I feel like as a teenager, or preteen, I was like, yeah. People are so happy now their heads are caving in. Like, I don't know. I definitely had that scrawled in a notebook somewhere.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So final decision. What are our favorite?
For me, I'm gonna stick with, again, it's really hard not to say Don't Let's Start, but I feel like that's the obvious choice. So I am gonna go myself for that reason with Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head myself.
So what you're saying is that you feel like the single is...
I feel like the single is Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head. Yes, Emma, that is correct. I think 8-year-old Emma was spot on. What about you? What are you thinking? What are we going to hear?
I think I'm going to go with Hideaway Folk Family on this one just because, like, it's so weird, but it's so, like, there's so much of a story in just the simple and, like, and then they also use I'm gonna go into, because I can't think of all the words that I'm thinking of, but like,
and if I know the first time I try to quote a lyric perfectly, I'm gonna be like, and it's like, yeah, it's gone, it's gone. But now the people listening or watching at home can now picture a Jordan Peele trailer to Hideaway Folk Family.
Exactly.